Well, I'm no engineer, but I think this is definitely broken. Okay, so this was a US video text terminal. And that's unfortunate because there aren't too many of those out there. Now, I don't ship CRTs very often. I tend not to buy them very often generally just because the shipping for them is incredibly expensive. And generally, if you have a few examples of the different types of vintage CRTs out there, composite, RGB, etc., you can pretty much cover most of your collection, unless it's something special or, you know, the monitor's integrated or whatever, like this one is. But generally, I try to keep the numbers of monitors down because I have a limited amount of space. I'm trying to confine the hobby to one room, and I'm failing miserably at it, but monitors do take up a tremendous amount of space. So yeah, I'm not shipping these things very often. However, recently I just went on a bit of a run and I got this US Videotel terminal, I got a 5153, I got a Zenith monitor, I got a Micro-B monitor, and I got a complete Hazeltine terminal. The Videotel did not turn out well, as you can see. The 5153 sadly seems to have, well, yeah, it's been destroyed basically. I'll show you that in a minute, as that one's particularly irritating because I paid the shipper, a professional freight forwarder, to use extra packaging to protect it. But this one, I kind of put more of the blame on myself. I was being a little bit complacent. I got this for 25 bucks. It came in its original box, and I thought, oh, it's probably gonna be just fine. It has its original box, it has its original packing materials, it's light, you know, we'll just send it over here. I wasn't thinking, gee, this is something really rare. I should spend, you know, $50 or $100 to really pack it well. It was just one of those things where it was something cheap and it had its original box and I thought I was safe. And it turns out I wasn't. Okay, so here's our 5153 disaster. This box looks more apocalyptic than it actually arrived. Basically, I ripped the sides off because I couldn't find a way to lift the monitor and was just trying to get around in there and see how bad the damage was, and believe me, the damage is bad. So this is definitely a classic example of how not to pack a CRT. Yeah, check that out. It's just mangled. Oh, just the sight of it makes me want to cry. These things are not getting any more common. The back of the CRT, it's basically snapped this right off the back of the CRT neck, so the CRT is toast. There may be some useful parts in there. I think the PCB is okay, and as it happens, the company that I shipped this with refunded me my money, so I was able to buy another one for the same price. I got really, really lucky because both of these were really cheap. So at least I have sort of a small stash of parts to help me out. And yeah, so yeah, this is really disappointing because, again, this is a company that I use all the time. They're called MyUS. And they basically, what they do is they allow you as a Canadian or foreign buyer to purchase things off eBay, for example, where the sellers don't want to ship internationally. So basically you lease sort of like a post office box with these guys and you ship everything there, and it looks to everybody else as if you're an American. And then they offer things like group shipping, where you can take a bunch of items and throw them in one box to save on shipping it all up to you. And I have to say, overall, it is a great service. These guys are quick, they're very communicative, they take lots of pictures of things as they come in, so you have a chance potentially to deal with the seller. And you know, most of the time they're pretty conscientious about packing things and so on. But every once in a while things go off the rails. And I think the thing that was so galling for me about this one is that I paid extra to have extra padding and what I was hoping would be a better box. The boxes that these guys use, they're pretty thin. Like, they're just, that's not gonna stand up to anything. And then apparently their idea of extra padding was to throw a bunch of these in. And no, I didn't pop all the airbags. It was already like that. I do love popping these though. These things sound like little bombs when they go off. Yeah, so this shipment's kind of a double fault. The seller I bought it from basically just threw it in a bag like this and threw it in the box. And when I looked at the pictures, it looked like it was fine. But I got nervous about trying to ship it the same way again. So that's why I requested from my US to just repack the thing and really surround it with bubble wrap or whatever. And hopefully it would make it here in one piece. But this is all they did. They put it in a different, much weaker box. They threw some paper in, they threw some half deflated airbags in, one layer of bubble wrap, and yeah, that's kind of what happened. And it's kind of sad because, like I said, these monitors don't grow on trees. It's so bad that I can't even really like lift the thing. I mean, they protected the front. Like, they thought that far. They was like, oh yeah, I'll protect the toughest part of the screen. I'll put some, yeah, there it is. That just sucks. Absolute. I gotta think some fault lies with the carrier on this one. I mean, we put fragile stickers on and that seems to be like waving a red cape in front of a bull. They seem to have really actually tried to destroy this one. But yeah, it's, I can't even lift it. Like, it's just in so many little pieces. Yeah, so obviously the mistakes here were a weak box, not nearly enough padding all the way around the monitor. Yeah, this is basically a ZFG situation. If you don't know what that stands for, unfortunately I can't tell you because this is a family-friendly channel, but you can look up some of your favorite curse words and probably make a guess. Yeah, just totally inadequate all the way around and just a double disappointment given that this was a professional shipping company. You know, you kind of hope that a little more thought goes into these things, but maybe they were crazy busy, maybe it was a new fella doing it, maybe they just didn't understand what was in the box, or my instructions, or whatever. But yeah, that's frustrating. But at least hopefully I have some good parts here, and I can keep the other 5153 that I purchased, which I hope gets here in considerably better shape than this one. Keep that one running for as many years as I have it. Now, CRTs generally look pretty tough. I mean, they're big, typically they're heavy, and certainly if you drop one on your foot, it's gonna win. And in fact, they are pretty strong in some places. Like, you really have to smash the front glass here in order to be able to break it, and that's obviously that way for safety reasons. But in many ways, CRTs are quite vulnerable to damage, and sometimes in ways that are not immediately obvious. You have to be pretty thoughtful when you're shipping one of these, and unfortunately a lot of people who ship these aren't. And even when they are, sometimes due diligence just isn't enough. For example, if we take this Tandy CM2 monitor here, you know, externally it looks fine. Now, it is open here, but that's my doing. I opened it because we'll get to that later. But externally, it looks completely fine. It looks like absolutely nothing wrong. And in fact, I was kind of fooled when I got this because I thought, oh yeah, it looks just great, and I plugged it in expecting everything was going to work, and when I turned it on I got these horrible hissing and whining noises, and the screen wouldn't come up properly, and it just really sounded bad. And it was very well packed. I mean, this thing was absolutely totally immobilized in the box. It could not go anywhere, and that was another reason why I was so confident I wasn't going to have a problem. But it turns out that what I couldn't see was inside. Now, it's going to be kind of hard to see, but basically this PCB sits on this little metal plate, and the plate does not extend the full length of the PCB for some reason. And the whole thing slides into a plastic channel in the chassis there. So what had happened, I think basically the packaging did what it was supposed to do to protect the outside of the monitor. It kept it from moving around, but it transferred all of those forces into the monitor, and this you know, if we want to call it a weakness in the design, basically all of those forces began to act on the PCB. The PCB bounced around. Eventually one side of it broke out of the plastic channel, and then the whole thing torqued itself up against the CRT itself in one corner, and it basically almost broke the whole corner off. So yeah, kind of a hard thing to anticipate, right? Because without having a really detailed construction diagram, you know, from a service manual or something, or having a seller willing to open it, I mean, how would you know that? How would you prepare for that? You just can't really. Another thing that can do in a CRT during shipping is just simply age. As plastic gets older, it tends to lose a lot of its elasticity to something called degassing, which, if I read correctly, is basically a continuation of the process that they do at the factory to degas the plastic when it's produced. It just sort of continues and gradually robs the material of its flexibility. And so it becomes very brittle and much more prone to breakage when certain forces are acting upon it. And typically with a CRT, the CRT itself is actually mounted to a reinforced area of the chassis, which is plastic. Now on this monitor, it's fairly tough. This is a high quality monitor. The plastic is fairly thick, but on my US video tell, it wasn't. It was incredibly cheap, really, really thin plastic. It was literally breaking in my hand as I was just picking up the pieces that were in the box. So unfortunately, the weight of the CRT ensured that it never really had a chance to be able to support that, even with the original packaging materials, and it basically just flew apart. Another thing that's really vulnerable with CRTs is the neck. It's a little bit obscured here, but it's basically a fairly thin cylinder. And basically inside the tube itself is a vacuum. And while the front of the tube can take quite a bit of abuse, the neck is actually quite fragile. And if you've worked on or around CRTs enough times, you've probably accidentally destroyed one of these by just accidentally grazing or bumping it. It really doesn't take much. And then you get this sinister which is basically the air getting into the tube, and then it's ruined. There's no way to recover from that. And that's just from a light bump. If this thing's getting thrown around in the belly of an airplane, I mean, it can do all kinds of damage, especially if the clearance between the back of the CRT and the chassis plastic is fairly tight. It would only take a little bit of flexing up and down for it to bump up against something and break, and that's basically it. And I've unfortunately had that very thing happen. Luckily, it didn't happen here. Basically, this PCB is broken in one place, but it is a single layer PCB, and it looks like it'd be fairly straightforward to fix it. So hopefully when I get brave and get over my fear of getting zapped, I will take that apart and do it. So yeah, shipping these things generally is kind of a pain in the ass, and there is some skill to doing it, and probably about 75% of the time you'll be okay, but there's always that, you know, 25% where, you know, even when you've done everything correctly, it still doesn't work out. And in fact, this is a reason why a lot of collectors say you shouldn't ship the things at all. You know, if you've bought a CRT from somebody for your collection, they actually advocate driving, even if it's 100 miles away, to pick the thing up, because that is the surest way of bringing it home in one piece. But of course, for a lot of collectors like myself, there's just not a lot of this stuff coming up available that's, you know, close enough to drive and go get it. So unfortunately, we're stuck with shipping. We just have to figure out a way to make it work and to some degree take our chances. Yeah, like I said, generally I avoid buying CRTs, but lately I've wanted to get a few more for various machines that I'd like to have permanently set up, or they come attached to a computer. And like I said, I bought a bunch recently. 2 of them you've already seen were destroyed. But I decided to save unboxing the last 3 because 2 of them were packed by professionals, one being the manufacturer of the actual thing that I'm getting, and another one being a professional packing and shipping company called Pack and Ship out of Australia. And then the third one was done by just an ordinary eBay seller, whom I'm hoping took the proper precautions. If not, that might be the third broken CRT to add to my broken CRT collection. So hopefully they did a decent job, and if they didn't, then we can do a post-mortem and see where they might have went wrong. So yeah, I'll put this away and we'll pull out the boxes and we'll see what we got. All right, so here's our first box, and you know, it looks pretty good overall. Bottom's a little broken, but that's okay. Yeah, it's not severely beaten or mashed. It's got one little hole in the side here, but it makes me a little nervous, but let's see what happens. So let's just cut this open. Now this one was packed by the original eBay seller and shipped to my freight forwarder, and I asked them specifically to leave the original packaging in place because after the previous experience, I no longer had any faith in their packaging abilities. So hopefully this has turned out all right. And looking at the pictures, it looked like he packed it pretty good. And yeah, I've been shaking the box around. I'm not hearing any noises or anything. So, you know, we're about to find out. Just see how much this guy wants to avoid an insurance claim. Okay, so yeah, we got packing paper, lots of it. Better than nothing, I guess. Okay, so let's see what we got. Well, it's not bad. Kind of awkward. It's a big monitor. And he's bubble wrapped it pretty good. He's left the top exposed, which is a little bit worrisome, but yeah, it could be worse. Okay, I've cut the bottom out. I'm just gonna flip it up like this. Just let it slide out the bottom. Nice and easy. Well, it's not looking too bad. I don't see any chips or anything. Holy cow, they went super thick on this, so that's good. Man, they really packed this. This is good. This is what you want to see. You want it to be so well packed that it takes you a while to unpack it. There we go. All right. That was pretty well packed, I must say. And there it is. So what this is a Zenith ZVM, I forget what the exact model number is, but it was used for a computer that I bought, which is the Zenith Z110, which is the manufactured version of the Heathkit H110. Kind of a strange computer. It's a mix of S100 CPM technology and also 8086, I think, capable of running DOS. So it's kind of a bizarre machine. And the monitor's a little different too. So this monitor's got high Z video input, composite input, it's got audio in and out, and then the RGB connector is this weird 25 pin connector that I've never seen before. And it's strange that it's 25 pin because on the computer it's only 9 pin. So I don't know what the deal is there. I have seen other computers with a 25 pin connector, like the AT&T 6300. I guess that's a thing. But you know, overall it's dirty. It needs one heck of a cleanup, but it doesn't feel broken. There's no chips on it. Even the door survived, which is crazy. Yeah, so that'll look pretty nice on my Zenith Z110. And maybe what I'll do is I'll try firing it up and we'll just see if it actually comes up okay, or hopefully it doesn't blow up or something. Okay, so what I'll do here is I'll just hook up a computer for a moment and see if we get anything on screen or if we've got problems with the screen. And since we're dealing with kind of weird and obscure sort of DOS compatible hardware, I figure I can hook it up to a really weird and obscure DOS compatible computer. This is the Apricot F2. I got this for not very much money at all. minus the proprietary wireless keyboard and mouse and everything that it uses. But it does use composite out as one of its options for videos, so I know it works. I've fired it up before, so I'll fire it up now. Oh, yeah, no, it's definitely working. That's pretty cool. And this computer actually dates, I think, to around the same time that this monitor does, roughly the middle of 1985. I don't have a boot disk for it though, unfortunately, so I can't really make it do anything beyond that, but that at least shows the monitor's alive and that the seller's precautions in packing it seem to have paid off. Now this feels like a pretty quality built monitor, like it's pretty sturdy. So I think it could absorb a fair bit more abuse than other monitors, but yeah, I'm not going to press my luck too much here. We'll shut this down and then we'll try unpacking another monitor, one which is much rarer and one that I'm very worried about because of how far it was coming from. And we'll see how it fared by comparison. Now, naturally, given recent CRT shipping experiences, I was a little bit hesitant about sending this very rare Aussie monitor all the way across the ocean over here, with all of the opportunities that it would have to be self-destructed. But when I heard a professional packing service was involved, that kind of gave me hope. And basically what we did is we actually sent the Micro B itself and the tape recorder and a couple other things separately. And they came over and I was able to inspect the quality of the work that Pack and Ship did, and it was really, really good. I mean, it was packed. It took me probably about half an hour just to unwrap the thing because it was just covered in layers and layers. So I'm hopeful that this has turned out well. These monitors, like I said, are crazy rare. And the last one that went for sale solo went for $600 Australian. So that gives you some idea of the value of these things. And unfortunately, the chap that bought that one shipped it and it was destroyed. So yeah, I'm a little hesitant about opening this box because right now as it stands, I have that monitor. You know, it exists in theory. As soon as I open the box though, that reality might change. So yeah, I don't know, maybe we should just cancel this part of the video and, you know, I'll just put it on a shelf and I'll say, yep, I do actually have a Micro B monitor. It's just in the box and I don't want to open it. Anyway, let's see what we got here. So one sign that this is professionally packed is it's got all these heavy stickers on it. The box is pretty decent quality, definitely compared to the boxes that my US was using. Oh my God, those are ridiculous. They were like paper bags, basically. The presence of all these heavy stickers tells you that somebody's taking their job seriously. And yeah, like I said, it's not in bad condition. It looks pretty much intact. It looks like from the packing slip here that it basically went by air. And that always makes me a little nervous because up in the air, things get bounced around a lot. And the pilots maybe don't take quite the same level of caution that they do when there's 200 or 300 screaming people in the back. So at least that's my guess on it. So who knows? All right, well, let's just do this. And hopefully I will have a complete Micro B set and I will not be crying on camera. Yeah, that's... Somebody went to town with the tape on this. Wow. It's always a good sign. Yeah, we'll just cut over here. And we'll just take a moment to breathe in that stale Aussie air. All right, let's open this up and see what we got. All right, well, we got extra cardboard. That's always a good sign. Used paper. Okay. That could be good, that could be bad. Let's see. And we've got some, okay, all right. They were thinking. They put some styrofoam up in the front there to protect the front of the screen, so that's a good sign. The monitor is bigger than I thought it was. When I was looking at it in pictures relative to the Micro B, it looked small, but in here it actually looks quite large. Okay, well, let's just lift it up. Oh, this is where it's scary. It feels like it's all still one piece. So there's that. All right, and here's the bottom of the box. So you can see they've given it a couple layers of bubble wrap. Not a ton on the bottom there. You can see where the feet of the monitor have been bounced into the box. So hopefully we won't regret that later. But yeah, I mean, that's better than what my US did, so. Let's see. Oh, look at that. Okay, I don't hear anything loose. That's probably a good sign. And yeah, this is bubble wrap to death. Yeah, you might want to go and have a coffee because maybe have dinner. It's going to be a while before I cut through this. That is packed. All right, let's see. Where do you even start? That is a packing job. Way to go, pack and ship. But we're not there yet. Let's not get too excited here. They meant business when they packed this. This is just... oh, I got scared. I thought that little piece of tape there was actually a broken piece of plastic. Almost had a heart attack on camera. Okay. Oh yeah. Look at that. Oh, another layer underneath. Yes. This is how you're supposed to do extra packaging. My US, take notes. This is what you do when you're charging people to do extra packaging. This is what extra looks like. We're into like almost 10 minutes here. That's how you're supposed to do it. That's how all vintage computing items should be shipped. Not just monitors, but another. Holy crap. Okay. So, all right, well, we got one crack on the side there. But, you know, considering, let's just see how far. I don't know if that crack was there before. It might have been. I'll have to check the pictures. I mean, there's no arguing that they made the effort. Like, they went above and beyond. I'm here 10 minutes later after starting this, and I still can't get it completely done. Oh, man. Okay. A bit more. I've heard these pack and ship guys charge a fair bit for what they do, and I think you can see why. Like, get a better handle there. Just lift it out. Yes. Yes. Look at that. Almost unscathed. A little dirty, but not bad. Not bad at all. There we go. There's our proof Micro B green screen monitor. Power supply, 240 volts at 50 hertz. So yeah, this is actually going to be kind of useful from time to time because I have some other machines like my NASCOM one, which sync to 50 hertz rather than 60 hertz. So assuming this all works, that'll be another thing I use it for. It kind of looks like a television set though to me. Like these little holes in the back here almost look like where you would mount rabbit ears. I wonder if this is kind of like CompuColor where they took an existing television set and basically just hollowed it out and put their computer in it. This is obviously just a monitor, but I don't know why they've got a 12 volt power supply in the back either. Not really sure what the deal is with that. It looks like an input. So there's our nasty little corner. But you know, it's not, the thing is, it doesn't feel loose. It actually feels like it's been glued in place. So I think that's been that way for a while. In which case, my hat really goes off to pack and ship because, You know, it's one thing to pack something that's in pristine condition. It's another thing to pack something that's already slightly broken and get there safely. There's our contrast, our brightness. That's our power button, still works. Nice. Nice. And we have, looks like a headphone jack there. Yeah, this thing is just so retro looking. As soon as I saw it, I was like, oh man, I hope I get that. But yeah, that is the Micro-B green screen monitor, 12,000 kilometers. It's still in one piece. All right, so here is the totality of my Micro-B collection, including my computer in a book, which is kind of a misnomer. It's actually just a disk drive. The computer is actually just a normal Micro-B. This doesn't belong with this gear, unfortunately. You need the 64 kilobyte disk-based Micro-B for that. But, you know, beggars can't be choosers, and I can always find that later. Now I have an actual Micro-B. I'm just happy with that. I've got the original tape deck here, and yeah, now we've got the monitor. Again, packed and shipped by Pack and Ship, and here basically unbroken. So yeah, that's exciting. I'm really thrilled that this made it all this way over here. I'd plug it in, but unfortunately Aussies, in addition to liking that disgusting Vegemite stuff, they also use 240 volt power. It's kind of hard to see on camera, but the blades on this are actually bent outward at an angle so that idiots like me can't plug it into 110 volt power receptacles. But anyway, yeah, I do actually have a transformer coming that will allow me to step up 110 volt to the 240 that this expects. And yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to firing this up. According to the original eBay ad, it was all working, so I'm anticipating it won't be too tricky there. And when I get to the point where I can actually flip the switch, I will definitely do a little video and show this off, because this has been something I've been trying to collect for a really long time. Really, really hard to get if you're not in Australia. So I consider myself pretty fortunate now that I have what I have here. Okay, so for our final CRT unboxing video here, I have a Hazeltine computer terminal. So not just a CRT, a complete terminal. It's a Series 1400, just like it says on the box. This is the original box, which makes this kind of unique, because you don't get original boxes very often. Now, I already have a Hazeltine terminal. I have a 1510 that I recently restored, and I don't generally collect terminals just because they take up so much space. But this one I made an exception for, and you'll see the reason why. Right there, Ohio Scientific. If you've watched my channel, you probably know already I'm an Ohio Scientific fan. I did a video on their first product, the 300 trainer board, and this one kind of caught my eye because this is basically an OEM deal that OSI had with Hazeltine. Now, a lot of OSI gear had direct video output and keyboard input, so a terminal wasn't usually necessary. However, for a lot of their business class machines, especially in multi-user environments, they went the other way, and they had basically a server terminal type dynamic going on. So at some point in the late 70s, they basically struck up a deal and Hazeltine produced these terminals for them. And they're basically Hazeltine terminals through and through, except that they've been rebadged as OSI. And I picked this one in particular because on this one, several of the key legends have been modified to OSI's particular requirements. So it's kind of a unique thing to have. It gives me another example of a Hazeltine terminal, but something, you know, truly unique. Another thing that excited me about this one is it was in its original box with its original packing materials. So that gave me a little bit of hope that maybe this thing would make it in transit, which proved to be not the case with our US VideoTel terminal, but this one I think looked a little more sturdy, so we'll see. Basically, I only made one request of the freight forwarder, and that was to put some extra bubble wrap in there just in case. But this box has been pretty well designed, I think. I opened it up to take a quick peek and gave it a shake. I'm not hearing anything broken, so hopefully we'll have a perfectly intact and pretty much entirely unused Hazeltine terminal in there. All right, so let's open this up. There's our extra paper. And I'll just turn this on its side so you can see. Now this is what you call double boxing. So basically the actual terminal is in this box, but you've got this outer box and then you've got these padded foam blocks to protect the box and give it a cushion on all sides. So even if your courier guy decides to treat it like a football, unless he kicks it really hard, he's not going to penetrate through two boxes. So yeah, that is the smart way to do it. If I were packing a CRT or a CRT terminal and had access to something like this, then that's typically what I would try to do, because yeah, that's much more sturdy. The box material generally is way better than what the freight forwarder used. So yeah, we'll just flip it over here. I think that's probably the easiest way. So just take the foam blocks out. Now, this does violate my rules somewhat about not having original packing materials in boxes, particularly the packing materials, because a box you don't feel bad about cutting the tape and just folding it flat. But the original packing materials, you know, you can only compress those to some degree. And so what often happens is you end up with a situation where, you know, you got limited space, right? You have the actual object, which you might like to display and use, but then you're gonna have a box sitting there taking up space with nothing in it. So you feel that kind of pressure to keep the thing in the box so that it's not taking up twice as much space as otherwise. But then of course, if you keep things in boxes, you tend not to use them, right? Because boxes get piled on top of boxes and then it becomes too much of a pain in the neck to take things out. So that's the other side of that, and that's why I generally try not to collect boxes, because I just don't like being in that ethical quandary of, you know, should I just throw the box out, or or do I keep everything in its original box to preserve space and then never use it? All right, so this is the inner box. I'll put the outer box away. Okay, this is exciting. All right, so this is the inner box. And you can see this is pretty well protected here. Look at this. Oh, wow. This, I don't think this has even been opened. I think this was actually sold as new in box. Wow. Yeah, no, this looks pretty close to brand new. Well, let's open it up. Our 1420. Technical summary, all the settings. Yep. Let's open it up. And there's all our documentation, technical settings, operation, additional keyboard commands. Nice. Okay, so I think what I'll do is I'll just lift this cardboard partition off. And that's the invoice from the seller. They sent a pen along. This is from Digital Dinos. This fellow's great. He's been offloading a lot of OSI gear. I bought an unbuilt 540 video board from him, and he sent along some extras, which I actually used in my OSI 300 video to show OSI sort of after it was purchased by some other companies. So that's pretty cool. And he also sent along a punch card, an original. I don't think I have any of those, so that's pretty cool. Thanks and enjoy. Oh, I will. I will enjoy the heck out of this. And the problem is the terminal is quite tightly packed in there. I gotta find a way to get a grip on it and hope it doesn't try to come apart on me as I lift it out. So this should be fun. I don't like grabbing it just by the edge of the screen, but that's all I can do. And then there we have it. Wow, look at that. This thing is super clean, like it's not even close to being dirty. There's not even a little bit of dust on it or anything. Either this has been kept like superbly well, or it's probably almost never been used, would be my guess. Not sure what these holes on the side are for. Now this was sold as untested, so yeah, you know, I'll figure I'll plug it in and see what happens. It's only so many bad things that could happen. My favorite thing about this terminal is this label right here, Ohio Scientific. Yep, just by the power of relabeling. Now the special keys that they set up are basically just function keys. So it's like F1 through, looks like F11. And I think it's invoked by this function key over here. But other than that, it seems like a pretty stock 1410 terminal. So, and the keyboard is really nice. If you ever get a Hazeltine terminal, the number one thing that you'll find that's usually wrong with them is the keyboard. Because this is that stack pole or high-tech style of keyboard with those square plungers that crack at the corners and then bind, and then the keys don't type properly. But this one seems to be pretty much in mint condition. I don't know, I should ask the seller or check the listing again, but I feel like this thing has probably never been used. There's just the tiniest bit of dust on it in places, and everything seems to be cosmetically perfect. So yeah, just for fun, we'll fire it up. We'll see what happens. Hopefully nothing bad happens. All right, we got the fire extinguisher at the ready, and we'll just fire up here and see what happens. No smoke. No power either. Okay, so this happened. I just couldn't resist. That wasn't the point of this video, but I just had to know. And there's my problem. It's this fuse here. It's probably going to be impossible to see on camera, but it's definitely blown. Now, I say this is the problem, but it could be just a symptom of the problem. There could be some other thing going on here. There could be something that's short-circuiting that's causing it to blow a fuse. I feel like the seller probably would have tried a fuse at a minimum if they had had any interest in firing this thing up. I do have to remark, though, that this thing is absolutely spotless. Like, there's nothing. There's no dust anywhere. So I think I'd have to check the original eBay listing again, but I'm pretty sure the seller said this was kind of like a new in box scenario, and yeah, like I would believe him. This thing is just mint. So yeah, I think I'm gonna have to trace down just a 1 amp fuse. So I'll give it a try and see what happens. But if it doesn't work or if it blows again, then most likely I'm gonna have to get much deeper into this thing. And unfortunately, I have other projects on the go, so that'll have to wait. You know, it's pretty crazy to think that CRTs are becoming scarce. I mean, if you're over a certain age like I am, they were pretty much everywhere growing up. There were literally millions of them, and they just seemed to be inexhaustible. And they didn't really go away all that long ago when you think about it. I mean, I still had a CRT as my primary television set and as my computer monitor well into the early 2000s. So they just didn't seem like something that would become rare or scarce. But now when you look around, like, you really don't see that many of them out there. And I've made a habit of grabbing them, you know, if I ever see a working CRT television set or such being offered up by somebody and I can store it, I generally will take it because we're literally running out of these things. And unfortunately, every one of these that gets destroyed in shipping is basically now irreplaceable. So yeah, it seems pretty incredible to think that that's the case, but nonetheless it is. You know, everything it's flat screens now. So it does warrant a little extra caution when you're trying to ship one of these things, whether you're the actual shipper or you're somebody who's buying one. I think as a buyer, communication is key. You know, you need to reach out to the seller, and you don't have to be rude about it, but just, you know, say, look, I'm a collector. I've shipped quite a few of these things. I've lost a couple. They're a whole lot more fragile than they look. And, you know, here's some suggestions for packing. I'd be happy to pay extra for more packing materials to make sure that we don't have to go through an insurance claim and all of that nonsense with eBay because it got destroyed. And you'll find that most sellers generally, when you present it that way, you know, most of them don't want to lose money. They want to have a successful experience. They want to put some money in their pocket and get good feedback on eBay. There are a few sellers out there that are, for lack of a better term, morons. And those guys will not care, and no matter what you do, they will just, you know, throw the monitor in a box with a sheet around it and hope it works out. In my case, I've had a few of those, and luckily for me, it did work out. It seems to be only when I go to the extra trouble of trying to pack the thing or trusting in the original packing materials that it seems to go wrong. But yeah, most sellers generally don't want to lose money and will work with you within certain reasonable limits to try and package the thing properly and make sure that it survives. Anyway, I hope this little video has been helpful. It's a subject that I've thought about on and off for years. I hadn't really bought a lot of CRTs at all in recent years, but just kind of went on a bit of a spree to fill up some gaps in my collection and make some more of my computers regularly usable. And obviously we've got a few here that have succeeded. They've made the journey, one from 12,000 kilometers away, so it is possible. And I welcome any discussion on the topic in the comment section below. Good, bad, if you think I got it right, if I got something wrong, by all means let me know. And hopefully we can work together and ensure that there are fewer and fewer disaster stories. Anyway, as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.